Hello, welcome to the latest episode of Diaries of Badass Bosses. I'm Penny Joyner-Platt.
And I'm Tigz Rice, and I was totally looking over there in the mirror when you started introducing this episode. So this is going to be a blooper right from the beginning.
She's been watching, looking at herself rather than at the lovely audience. But yeah, no, getting back to it. Now, have you checked yourself out enough now? Are we okay?
I don't know, tell me, am I looking good? Is this my good sign?
Beautiful, darling.
Fabulous, then I'm great, beautiful. I'm good, let's go.
I thought today, based on, we've got a guest today,
yes,
and her journey is quite an interesting one in the sense of when she actually started it. I mean, it's incredibly successful today, but not only the time at which she started it, but she's also gone through a period of nearly losing the business somewhat, or it completely disappearing during COVID. So I thought it'd be an interesting thing for us to talk about of like, when is a good time to start a business? Because for me, I started January 2020, just before COVID.
and I started mine in 2009 in a recession.
Yeah.
So both of us picked excellent times to start businesses.
But actually, if I'm honest, as much as like on paper, it sounds like, oh my God, that could potentially be the worst time ever. It actually allowed me to find my feet a little bit. So in a sense, for me, it wasn't like, oh my God, I've started a business and I had this huge overwhelm. It kind of just gave me the opportunity to take a bit of time to understand, get my strategy in place, get a couple of clients, just start to bubble away, like, you know, kind of soft launch the business and not feel like, wham, bam, I'm here. I need to make this a success straight away. So it kind of worked in my favor.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I graduated and then there weren't jobs. I remember going around and handing my CV out and being like, okay, when I say I put my CV everywhere, I mean everywhere. Like I remember going down, I was living in Orpington down in Kent at the time and handing it out. But to be honest, I think I always knew that I wanted to be self-employed anyway. And actually it was kind of perfect. So I'm like, well, I'm going to have to make this work now. So for me, it was very much like lean in, do the work, do the thing. So actually, I think it really worked for me as well, having that kind of push, like, you're going to need money coming in the bank, Tigz, like, let's make this happen. So yeah, it definitely pushed me to try even harder potentially because I didn't have anything else.
And I think maybe if you want it bad enough, or it's the same as like when people say to you, like, there's never a good time to have kids. There's never a good time to buy a new house. There's never a good time to start a business. I think if you really want it and you know it's for you, or you just want to give it a try, there's no right time of the year. There's no perfect year. There's no perfect season. Like, it's just get down, get dirty, and do it.
Do the thing. Connor, when did you start your business?
I started it.
It wasn't quite mic'd up there.
I started it the day before lockdown. So, yeah. When was lockdown announced? It was announced on Wednesday.
March.
Yeah. And then we all went into lockdown on a Friday. I quit my job on the Thursday. So, gosh. That was good fun.
So all three of us picked excellent times.
Of course.
Perfect timings. Yeah, it was amazing.
Now.
Thriving.
Literally. Well, I mean, that obviously is a lovely segue into what I think is a very inspiring entrepreneur.
So excited about today. It's going to be, honestly, I think people are going to be sat glued to their earphones or whatever they're listening to this.
But also she's going to make you want to feel like you want to relax.
Yes.
That's a really good tip. So, really amazing guest today. But she is quite phenomenal. I'm really excited to explore this journey that she's been on. Very much something that I think all of us, particularly us mums, need a relaxing time. A moment to get away from it all.
Yeah.
The stresses, the dramas of life. And it's not just for mums. Anyone that runs a business just needs some time out. I think you're going to be very excited to meet our wonderful guest today, who is the wonderful Abi Selby of spabreaks.com. Welcome.
Good morning, ladies. What an introduction. And yes, we definitely need some relaxation, don't we?
Oh
And
my
I know a
God.
girl that can help. It's all good.
Oh, well,
Oh,
I mean, that wasn't even your intro. I have a much longer intro coming. But it is really lovely to have you
Thank
on the
you.
show today. We've definitely been keen to get you on. I know we've tried a couple of times because I know you're a very, very busy lady
Just
in
a little
demand.
bit busy.
So thank you for giving us the time, and really exciting to get into it. So if you'll bear with me, I'm going to intro you fully now.
Oh,
Get ready.
oh.
The whole shebang. So, joining us today on Diaries of Badass Bosses is the extraordinary Abi Selby, the founder of Europe's premier spa booking agency, spabreaks.com. Abby's journey is a testament to audacity, resilience, and rewriting the rules of the spa industry. Born in Newton Abbot, Devon, with no formal business training, she turned a light bulb moment into spabreaks.com in 2008. I mean, what a year to
Yeah.
decide.
Yeah.
We'll come on to
Not
that.
the best year, right?
Not the best year. Despite launching during a recession, Abby's leadership propelled spabreaks.com to the #2 position in the Sunday Times Virgin Fast Track 100 by 2012. Fast forward to 2022 with a turnover of 32 million. Woo. Spabreaks.com, under Abby's guidance, sends over 12,000 people on spa experiences weekly, boasting a customer database exceeding 1 million. Abby's commitment goes beyond business success. She champions accessibility, challenging industry limitations, especially in treating those recovering from illnesses. As a mother of 3, you poor thing, she infuses a personal touch into her professional practices, advocating for flexibility and providing unwavering support to her team. Active in industry leadership, Abbie serves as the chair of the UK Spa Association, working tirelessly to address industry challenges and elevate standards. Her mentorship has seen team members thrive for over 15 years, some even venturing into entrepreneurship. Tune in. I mean, this just sounds amazing as we unravel this dynamic journey, empowering philosophy of Abi Selby, a true badass boss reshaping the spa landscape. Welcome.
Thank
How
you. Whoever
exciting.
wrote that. Goodness me, I need to send them on a spa break.
You're
don't I?
welcome.
Wow.
You
Thank
can
you.
hire me for copywriting and PR purposes at any time.
I'm blushing. Thank you. That was really lovely.
Well, I mean, let's just get straight into it. Come on, tell us all about that journey. Like, so from basically a non-traditional beginning, can you delve into those early experiences and challenges that kind of resonate with us entrepreneurs, like navigating our own way? What is it facing that skepticism and everything of what you've gone through?
Yeah, I mean, goodness, 16 years, right? I guess I am a very different person to the person I was then. I actually started the business when my eldest was 6 weeks old. So I went into this, I think, probably in a recession with an idea, with no business background and a 6-week-old baby. And I think if I've learned anything, it's that if you've got the determination and the belief to do something, you absolutely can. So I set about, I had this idea when I was working at a collection of hotels in Newbury in Berkshire, which is where I live. It was 20 years ago. The spa and wellness, wellness wasn't even a thing 20 years ago. You know, we talked about spa, we talked about beauty. Spa was beauty. Spa was all about hair and nails and eyelashes and all that kind of stuff. But actually for me, it went a whole lot deeper than that. So when I worked at the chain of hotels that I was working at, we opened a spa. We built a spa actually while I was there. So I watched the spade go into the ground and went through the journey of watching this kind of this building take shape. And I was the sales marketing manager, so I was looking after the third party relationships that existed to sell spa. And although they were doing a great job, I didn't think they were doing a brilliant job. And I thought perhaps I could do a better job. So I guess at that point in time, the key to this is that I probably foresaw what essentially is the spa and wellness industry now. And maybe also foresaw a little bit around where society was going with pressures of mobile phones and social media and this kind of what I saw as a bit of a bubbling, melting pot of I guess anxieties and things that were going to come out at a later date. So while I was at the hotel that we built the spa at, I did a lot of research into what I felt was needed and was going to be needed in the future moving forward. I left there. I started my own PR agency for a couple of years so that I could get under the skin of other spas and really understand, I guess, what it was that I was going to need to do to make this work. And then I started Spa Breaks in 2008. We started with 2 placement students. So they were both in their years off of university. They didn't want paying. They just wanted to, obviously, business experience. And I could give them the opportunity to go and stay at all the spas in the UK. And what an amazing job. We paid their expenses. They got commission. So it worked really nicely in that there wasn't a huge amount of setup costs attached to the business. We did the cash flow that the customer paid us before they traveled to the spa. We then pay the spa after the customer is visited. So from a cash flow point of view, because obviously early startup businesses often struggle from a cash point of view, that made complete sense. And the rest I pretty much did myself. So my background was PR and marketing, content writing, etc., etc. So was able to do a lot of that myself. And if I'm really honest, the absolute basics and essentials of setting up a business is all around communication, relationships, right? You've got to be the person that people want to work with, because if you're not and they don't, it makes it really difficult. It doesn't matter how great your product is. Actually, if you're not somebody that people want to work in and want to invest their time, energy, money, whatever in, for me, it's a bit of a non-starter. And although I don't have that traditional business background, and I certainly don't have, I grew up in a sleepy seaside town. I was told by my careers advisor at 16 that I was lucky I had a nice smile because I wasn't going to achieve anything else in life. So just go and find a nice man and have a load of babies. So, you kind of, and can you imagine saying that in today's world?
Oh, yeah. Oh my God, let's try it now.
So I kind of, there was never any expectation for me to go into this world of businesses or understanding business in any way, shape or form. And I never dreamt it would be something I did. And I really did stumble into it, really, rather than, set about thinking it was what I was going to do. But what I have learned is that actually the best businesses and the best people in business are really nice people, genuinely nice people who give a shit. And actually, I think from my point of view, that's been hands down the biggest driver behind the success of my business, is the fact that if you can form relationships in all sorts of different areas of life, you're going to be fine, because actually the rest just comes out of showing respect and treating people in the way that you want to be treated. So it's it's been a fantastic journey. Obviously 16 years later, we're a team of kind of 70, 80 now. We're based down in Brighton. The team has actually reduced since COVID. So pre-COVID, it was quite a bit bigger than that. COVID allowed us to maybe kind of set the business and take it from an offline call center based business into an online business, which meant obviously from an efficiencies point of view, we were able to cut the size of the team quite significantly. But we work with over 500 spas in the UK and Ireland. We send 16,000 people to spas every week now, so that the numbers continue to grow. We had a record year in 2023 and forecast to have another record year in 2024. So COVID, I think, was a really tricky time for us, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit, but it certainly allowed us to reset as a business and kick on and come back bigger and stronger than we ever have been before. So
amazing. And what's the decision behind being based in Brighton? Any particular reason?
Well, that just makes no sense, right? When I live in Newbury and it takes me 7 hours to get down there and back. Absolutely no sense whatsoever. The story goes with that one is that I was based, so when I started the business, we were based in London. We were in London for 10 years. We then weren't attracting what I felt were reflective people to represent and to sell a spa and wellbeing brand. So people in London, very transitional, very kind of salesy, very kind of going out drinking at the weekends, having fun, which was great for that period of time. But actually, as the business matured and the brand matured, it was actually very important for me that we represented what we were selling and how we were selling. So I kind of set about looking to reestablish and relocate the business. And growing up in a sleepy seaside town, the connection to the sea for me and my own personal well-being is so strong that actually I felt that I needed to, I guess, give some of my employees back. The move to Brighton didn't massively make sense from a personal point of view, just because it takes me a long time to get down there. But what I worked out is that actually I needed to give and create an environment that I felt was representative of our brand. So growing up by the sea, I knew the connection to water being so very important to me and my grounding, that I wanted my staff to have access to something very similar. So I looked around at a few locations, came across this incredible office in Brighton, which is a 6-minute walk from the seafront. And
wow.
I think as well as that element, I was very keen to, I've always been a big advocate of getting women back into the workplace after having children.
Yep.
And the transport links and the setup of Brighton being quite an intimate city means that actually I could flex the hours and have it so that women were able to come back into the office a lot more easily. And we also got the university, so we could I wanted a diverse workforce, and I also wanted it to be able to be allowed students to come through. We could look at part-time, we could look at flexible, we could look at all sorts, whereas you're a bit more fixed with that in London. So it worked really nicely, and it was the best thing we ever did. It was fantastic.
And how did that, because no one on this podcast has ever really talked about, like, we've never talked about relocating for a different colleagues, employees.
Different culture, I suppose, yeah.
How did that, what effect did that have on workplace culture for you within the building? Like, did you see massive changes in how the team, you know, like team happiness, team, I guess, like you were ahead of the wellness curve at this point then?
We were, yeah. So this was back in 2017. And actually, I had 11 of my team move down from London and relocate their lives down to Brighton with me. So I think that was a really big sign for me. I mean, we've got many people who've been with me for 12, 13 years. So people tend to stick around, which is the biggest compliment anybody could ever give. But certainly to have people relocate their entire lives and families out of London down to Brighton to be with the business and to follow it was fantastic. And I think with that backbone of culture and legacy and history and understanding me and the brand and everything that it stood for, it meant that we were literally able to hit the ground running in Brighton. I did it at interviews over 2 days, and we recruited 60 staff in 2 days.
Wow.
But because I had I know it was bonkers and such fun, because obviously the Brighton kind of culture is just so vibrant and so quirky and just so brilliant compared to what I was used to in London, that we saw some real talent, and a lot of those talent are still with us today. So it was a brilliant success story. The culture, the atmosphere, the environment, everything just fitted into what essentially is, the brand that I wanted to create. So it was brilliant.
Amazing. I'd love to ask you as well about launching in 2008, because that was sort of bordering on, I mean, I think it was 2008, early 2009, the recession really truly took a hold. And we're at a time right now where I think a lot of businesses are worried about sort of like the economic crisis and, cost of living. And what lessons do you have from that period of time setting up that might be useful to a budding entrepreneur that might be looking to set up a business this year, but are like, is this the right time to do it?
Is there ever a right time?
Yeah. Is there ever a right time to set a business?
And there really isn't. And you can always find excuses for why not to set up a business. And probably having a 6-week-old baby was probably the best one of all. But ultimately, I think as I sit there with kind of, a child hanging off me most of the time. But I think from my point of view, what I've learned is that it's the right time to set up a business, providing you have a business that has legs. So I think actually from my point of view, people often say to me, oh my God, spa is such a luxury. It's such a frivolous thing to do. It's such a superficial thing to do, because essentially you're going to somewhere, you're having a treatment. It's very indulgent. But actually I think what you see, and there's that very, very famous quote, isn't there, where in times of crisis the sales of lipsticks go up, because actually people go back to things that give them comfort and make them feel grounded at a time when actually they're not feeling very grounded in any other part of their life. And I think where we're very different now to when we were back in 2008 is that we very much do not see spa and well-being as a luxury. It has to be part of your everyday, in whatever capacity that is and whatever size that is. And maybe that's putting on a really nice face cream in the morning, or it's going for a full-blown spa day. actually an element of spa and well-being and everything that makes you feel good about yourself is so fundamentally critical, particularly during difficult times when everything else feels so unsure. And I think with the mental health issues that we all have these days, let's face it, we see our young people coming up through, we see people, men and women, really struggling with life. And I genuinely believe it's because we just don't connect with anything anymore. So I talk a lot in my kind of speeches and talks about how I feel that spa is one of the very, very few activities left in our world, actually, that involved you turning your phone off, putting your phone in a locker and forgetting about it for the day. You go into a spa environment, your senses are alive, your smell, your touch, your what you see, what you feel, what you taste, what you eat, what you smell is all enlightened. And without a screen in front of you that you're constantly like this with, actually what it enables you to do is to completely reconnect with everything and everyone that's around you. You strip off all your clothes, or your outside kind of worries are stripped off. You put on a warm, fluffy robe that I describe as this massive, great cuddle that literally makes you feel different from the minute you put it on. You're all dressed the same, so nobody's got to worry about race, colour, size, any of that stuff, because actually for that period of time you are switched off from the world and nothing else matters. And if you think about life generally, there are not very many occasions when you can say that you get to do that. And I'm a biggest advocate of the fact that actually this reconnecting with ourselves and with others is most of the reason why we have the problems that we do, because we just don't have time to switch off and connect. We're constantly on, but we're on to the wrong things. And so spa for me is incredibly powerful, particularly when you think about times like when you're when you're going through cancer, when you've got the depression, when you're going through the menopause, all of these things which spas were closed off to before. Never more do you need to connect with yourself and with others, and during those times, and that's where I believe spa is very, very powerful, and goes back to the roots of when it first existed back in the Roman times. That's exactly why these spas were created, and we just carry it on in different ways.
Yeah, we're not going out conquering a war, but we are conquering business. So
Absolutely.
I need a spa day.
Conquering war with our minds sometimes.
Yeah.
And I do you know what, I wholeheartedly agree with that, because one of my things is getting my nails done. So I get my nails done like regularly. And the thing I love about it is that I can't pick up my phone. Like it literally has to be in my pocket, because otherwise I'll ruin my nails while they're being done. And that's probably one of the things that I look most forward to, is just that 45 minutes, an hour of just complete switch off, can't answer the phone, can't read my text messages. And then you had a treatment yesterday and you turned your phone off completely. She rang me up and she's like,
I actually had, it was bought, I would never think to do this, but it was actually bought for me. I actually had a masseuse come to my house.
Oh, lovely.
And I was just like, one of my clients bought it me for Christmas. I was just like, oh, this is lovely. And it was incredible. I did set the scene though. I did create my own indoor spa, candles.
Lovely.
I did. I got scents. Yeah, got like, the diffuser going, got music going. So yes, I did create my own little spa environment. But I want to say though, spa experiences vary, because
absolutely,
even in the last 12 months, you and I have had a really bad experience. I also took my best friend, sorry, I've got another bestie, sorry, other best friend, to another spa for her 40th. Bad experience, like really upsetting, actually. So how do you kind of, do you go out and test these spas out and make sure that it's coming from you and your team to say, this is going to be a good experience, or this is kind of not so, or they don't even get to sign up to you if they're not meeting that criteria?
Very much so. And I think when you put your name to something, a brand or a business, you have to be incredibly sure that morally and ethically you are very happy and comfortable with what you're putting your name to. From our point of view, I have a product team of 10 people who are literally traveling the country every day, meeting with spas, visiting with spas, turning up when they're not always invited, making sure that we have levels of standards. We have a review system on the site so that it's actually true customer reviews that come on and are kind of given. And then we very much have a 3 strikes and you're out policy around, if we're continually getting complaints and you're not improving, you're not making that, not listening, then unfortunately we will remove people from the site. There are many spas in the UK that I would not consider to be spas. They're more high street salons, and there's absolutely a place for those, but the place isn't necessarily on our website. We have the Elysium collection, which is my way of celebrating the UK's most kind of highest rated spas, celebrating those. And I think we talked earlier about the economic kind of crisis around people not having necessarily the disposable income to spend, but sometimes actually these higher end spas are more accessible and more affordable than you think, particularly given the site and some amazing, specials that we do, etc., etc. So it's just, I think, making sure that there is a spa for everybody. I think it would be very naive of us to think that we can all afford to go to 5-star spas, because we can't. And there are some very good 3 and 4-star entry level spas that people go to and have an amazing time. But it's just making sure that we match the right spa to the right customer for the right need, because actually somebody going on a hen do for 10 girlies is very different to somebody who's got 6 months to live with cancer and wants to go with their mum or their sibling or whatever that might be. So I think because we are set up in a way that we have so much choice, we have people at the end of the phone to talk to if you've got any worries, concerns, any specific booking requirements, that actually it means that 9 times out of 10, and you're always going to find those that we don't quite meet those expectations, but actually most of the time we do get it very right.
Yeah. And if they're getting building work done, maybe they should close the spa rather than invite people for a weekend to enjoy it and relax, which was a very well-known big brand. I was gutted. And when I did report it and tell them as we were leaving, I never had anything back. I never got a response.
Wow.
I didn't get any money back, nothing. And their food was atrocious. So yes, it was an awful experience.
In future, we'll have to book for these spa breaks. That's the plan.
I know. Abbie, I didn't have you in my life at that point.
Sorry. So. Well, and sometimes, you know what, this is it. This is why we exist, because we have the choice. Mm-hmm. But we also have the ability that if you'd have called us and said, while you're on site, this isn't good enough, that's why we exist. We can help with this stuff. So, the spa industry is in real dire straits around staff at the moment, and trying to attract good therapists and good staff into our kind of spas and our hospitality world, because let's face it, they work really hard for very little kind of return. And I think during COVID, we saw a lot of our Eastern European counterparts go obviously back because of Brexit, and then people realised that actually they could go and work with the likes of John Lewis and Waitrose and be paid similar, if not better money, by doing something that they don't have to spend 6 hours, 7 hours in a dark room all day. So there's with my other UK Spa Association hat on, there's a lot of work to do, I think, in understanding that wellness starts at the very core of wellness, which is essentially through our therapists. And we need to see them as true therapists, in the sense of, like we do occupational therapists or physiotherapists, or these guys are day in, day out offering relief in a whole host of different ways, and they're just not being rewarded or recognized for it in the right way. So there's a lot of work to do in that to get that right, because that then filters through to the experience that you would have had. So it's lots of work to do, but exciting nonetheless.
Well, I'm glad that you're involved in that. Like, I'm sure that anybody out there that does work in the industry that is a therapist knows that you've got their back. So that's like a true testament to you that you see that, the importance of that. So it's wonderful.
There will be no spa industry if we don't get that right moving forward. Because actually, without those therapists, yes, you've got the building, yes, you've got the pool, but ultimately you can go anywhere and get in a pool. That's not, it's the power of touch, isn't it? It's the touch. It's the physical connection with somebody. You said earlier you had that treatment and you felt amazing afterwards. I challenge anyone to tell me of a better feeling than for those kind of 10 minutes after you've had a massage, where you feel like you are absolutely untouchable and you feel incredible. There's a person giving you that feeling, and I think that's where we forget that actually that's a gift, and that gift deserves to be rewarded adequately. And until we see our therapist in that light, and that comes at general manager level in hotels, whatever that may be, but actually this is part of a much bigger hospitality issue actually. But we'll get there. We'll keep addressing it.
And it's their expertise as well of like the products and what products. So everyone's got a different type of skin. Everyone reacts to things differently. that was one thing I took away was the therapists were incredible. So the spa itself, the experience was bad of the building works and everything, but the therapists were incredible. And I did say that. I did say her expertise was just, she knew exactly my skin. She knew I suffered with rosacea. So she recommended all the things that I could be doing, beyond the spa. And, it was so invaluable. And I really took that away and thanked her for that. And I would hate to think that she's not getting exactly what she deserves, if not more. So, yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned your Spa Association hat. We'd love to hear more about the work that you do in that role.
Yeah, so that's essentially ensuring that the sustainability of the future of spa is commercial and is recognized. I think, again, we go back to that spa being beauty. It's all about nails and hair. Well, it isn't. It categorically isn't. And so the work of the UK Spa Association is really around ensuring that spa managers, spa directors, who aren't always the most business educated commercial people in the world, due to their very nature of who they are and what they're brilliant at doing. And we've talked about how brilliant therapists are at touch and emotion and making you feel incredible. But rarely do these people have business experience of running profitable businesses. So when they're put into a spa world, actually making a spa profitable is not easy. So from an association point of view, we try to work with the spas to ensure that they are given the tools to be able to run their spas efficiently and also make a profit, because ultimately that will then drive the higher wages, etc., etc. But a massive kind of part of the association's work is around work for wellness, which is essentially making sure that we are protecting and educating therapists, attracting the right people into the industry, and making sure that once they're in the industry, they're being looked after and their well-being is very much part of an ongoing program. Because it's a bit like racehorses and greyhounds, isn't it? The more you flog them to death to do what they do, the less likely they're going to be able to perform. And I see it in that we need to protect this body of people, because if we don't, not only are they going to leave, but we're never going to attract more into this industry. And again, a bit like my careers advisor, when she said to go and get married and have babies, the other option was go and be a beauty therapist, because that's, if you speak to most people in the world, as a mum myself, would you have wanted your daughter to become a beauty therapist? It's not exactly high on the list, is it? Where actually it's an incredibly responsible and rewarding and incredible job for the right person, if it was positioned correctly. So this is, and I could talk about this one for hours, but it's part of a positioning piece and an education piece, actually, because it goes back to universities and colleges and schools. And that's all the work that we do to make sure we've got these people coming through and see it as a career, not just as something you do if you can't do anything else.
I think one of my favorite things, like piece of research that I came across recently, was you need, I think it's 8 hugs a day or 8 significant touches a day just to survive. So, and then I think it was like 12 to thrive. And so actually, I mean, I know it's not hugs, but like the importance of having spa treatments and having people with, physical touch, like in the form of, like a spa massage, whatever, is such an important thing. It's a very holistic, it's important to have these people around us. So yeah, and it's
comes back to connection, doesn't it? It comes back to the fact that we live fairly solitary lives these days, because actually so many people work from home, so many people continue to work in their little silos. The office environment isn't what it used to be. More marriages are breaking down than ever. Men particularly end up in smaller flats post divorce with they don't always have a huge amount of friends. That for me that's where spa comes in. And actually connection and touch is just, for me, sits at the basis of everything that we do.
Are you seeing a lot more male clients in recent years? Like how has your demographic changed as the wellness industry has become a bit more forefront in news, I suppose?
It's really interesting. So in June last year, we ran a Real Men Relax campaign, which was essentially we juxtaposed builders, farmers, electricians in big white fluffy robes in their workplace and took a load of photos.
I love that.
We did one in a guy in a tractor in this big white kind of white fluffy robe. And then we worked with a lot of rugby players who
Ooh,
actually,
nice.
yeah, it was a really, really hard day in the office, that one. And took them to spas, and we talked to them a lot about how spa plays and wellness plays a massive part of their recuperation and part of their training program. And we talked a lot for the month of June last year around men and understanding that men also have a massive part to play in the spa, around the fact that all spas have got gyms. You know, they've got fantastic gyms. We've got product houses now. One called Proverb that springs to mind is trying to put treatments in a gym environment. So actually we're bringing gym and treatments together rather than making it a girly fluffy spa thing. Actually it's a result driven kind of masculine thing in a gym environment which they're much more comfortable in. So I think as we go through this journey and we understand the importance that spa and wellbeing has to play, actually men are definitely feeling more comfortable within that environment. I think the likes of TOWIE and all those kind of programs that weren't around 20 years ago are also helping because they're all into their skincare and going to spas, and it's become the norm. So we've seen a real shift in men being very comfortable coming to spas, and seeing the power of giving their wives, partners a gift of going to a spa and being able to go with them as part of that kind of couples reconnection, time out, whatever it may be. So it's quite exciting, actually, the transition we're seeing of men into spa.
I mean, I actually still cry laughing at when my poor husband Chris, I took him on our honeymoon for a joint massage in Sri Lanka, and I basically laughed all the way through it because he was just so uncomfortable. He just literally was just like, I think the first thing was the paper pants. That then just started a trigger of just like, okay, I'm now wearing these. I mean, he's a very hairy man anyway. And then when the two people walked in and his person was a man, he was like, oh no. And he's just lying down going, what the hell have you done to me? And it's not relaxing whatsoever because I'm just crying, laughing all the way through this. But it was his first time, so give him fair due. You did all right. But I do think, as you said, I think, you know, it's now becoming much more normalized. It's very much more like, actually, this is a really nice thing to do. But I think next time he wants a nice girl,
yeah,
you know,
typical.
Next time I'll book a woman.
Yeah, oh, bless him. Yeah, it can, and it's not for everybody, you know, but actually there's still a lot of women that find spa very intimidating. Spa, I still think we've got to break down the barriers, and the team and I at spabreaks.com are constantly breaking down barriers in so many different walks of life around this whole topic. But actually just getting people to spa can be really intimidating. And actually, if you're plus size, or if you've got scars, or if you're in a wheelchair, or you're blind, or you've got a hearing aid, or whatever it may be, you're pregnant, there is a whole world of, and this needs to be done not only through words, but also through imagery, because something which I find incredibly offensive actually is the fact that the over-sexualized use of imagery in the spa and wellness industry is not helping us attract a wider audience, because actually a size 8 22-year-old beautiful model in a sauna is not representative of the people that are in these properties day by day. So actually, the more inclusive we can be in not only the way we talk and the way we message, but also through our images and the messages we send through imagery, particularly with social media being so powerful these days, we've got to move away from the fact that everything's got to be teeny tiny bikinis and teeny tiny bodies, because that's just not real life. So we're working quite hard in that space as well. Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's culturally we've got to be much more diverse within our spa world, because everybody deserves access to, in my opinion, to relaxation and be able to reconnect.
I mean, that's, you know, for us, one of the reasons the types of guests that we have on this show is all about trailblazers. It's all about people breaking boundaries, you know, pushing through, not going with the norm. You certainly are a perfect representation of what should be happening when you're in an industry that just needs to not be limited. It needs to go beyond. What is it that you do for team members, not just people that are specialists, you know, beauticians and stuff, but your actual team? You know, what is it that you do as a mentor that gets them even thinking, I could be an entrepreneur, I could do what she's done, you know?
So I'm still very involved on the day to day. So I definitely am not that founder who I guess sits on a beach somewhere and isn't involved. So the team have a lot of access to me on a daily basis. So we celebrate wins, small wins, however small they are. I think what COVID taught me was that actually things can get taken away from you literally overnight. When that 20th of March 2020 or 23rd of March 2020 hit, overnight my business had to pivot massively and everything was taken away in a heartbeat. And I think I'd built it up for 10 odd years. The business had grown every year. I'd taken it for granted. We were loved by everybody. There was no issues. There was no drama. The world was a really happy place. But did we ever celebrate that? Definitely not. Did we celebrate the fact that actually we ran like clockwork because we had an incredible team of people who knew what they were doing, were passionate about the brand? No, we took it all for granted. And then overnight it's taken away and it takes 3 years to fix it. So we make sure now every week, every month, every day, we're celebrating small wins and making sure that we're recognizing what people are doing. And the empowerment that we have within the business is the thing that I'm probably the most proud of. So yes, I'm still involved, but I have an incredible senior management team who run the business on a day-to-day basis, and it allows me to do all the other strategy, bigger industry stuff that I do. But because they know me so well and they've been with me so long, they totally get and understand and agree and share the same beliefs that Spa has to be all the things that we've already discussed. And so as a result, they then filter that down to their teams. So every single business person within the business is empowered to be the best version of themselves. They're empowered to come to me with ideas directly. Every month I stand up in front of the whole team and we talk about where we're at. We talk about work anniversaries. We celebrate people. We celebrate things that we as a business are doing within the industry to change and to challenge perceptions and behaviours. And as a result, we've got the most incredible team of engaged, empowered people who then suddenly think, well, hold on a second. You know, I had a guy who was with me for 7 or 8 years, the most amazing London sales guy. He was a single dad of a little boy, worked so hard. And he realized that actually by talking and by being somebody who people look up to and are inspired by, you can make change. So he went to set up his own podcast around single dads and empowering them to be the best they can be. So he went to do that. One of my other girls set up a pajama business in the background while she's still working for us. We've got mums who have come back, realised that actually that the hours can't quite work for them, but they're going to go and do something. And then I just help them do that as well. So it's just a brilliant open kind of pot of creativity and ideas and fun. We just have so much fun. We laugh all the time.
It sounds like such an incredible company.
Yeah, like, what an environment. Yeah. And what does the future look like, you know, with everything that you've kind of overcome and where you are today? What's in store?
So the next steps are more about the brand. So we've worked hard for 16 years to get the mechanics of the brand working really nicely. And now it's time to make it really famous. So we want to go out there and really kind of work with partnerships and above the line media to really get the word out there, which is exciting. Naturally, we're only in the UK at the moment. So at some point there will be a conversation to be had about America and Australia and Europe and all the stuff that really superly, you know, really excites me. And then there's a lot more to do in the cancer space. So I work, as you know, in the I sit on the board of the SATCC, which is an advisory board set up to advise on standards for touch care therapy in treatment for people with cancer. I want to get spa treatments, massage back onto the recovery program for people with cancer because it used to be there. There's no reason why it shouldn't be back there. It's only because of insurance that it was taken off. So the SATCC is also an area that we will continue to work really closely with. So Sue Harmsworth and the team are very much really kind of ensuring that anybody, and let's face it, 1 in 2 of us are going to have cancer at some point in our lives. So it's very important that actually we have resources and places to go to find information about what products to use, what spas you can go and visit, because let's face it, if you've got a PICC line in, everything's sore, everything's sensitive from all the treatment, actually there's going to be nothing better for you than wrapping yourself up in a big white robe with your loved ones and going to spend a day in a nurturing environment where people genuinely care. So that's a big piece of work that we'll be working on. And then just continuing with the team stuff, continuing with all the trade stuff that we need to do, and just continuing to be the best we can be. You know, it's ultimately there's still room to grow. We're still not perfect, so still things we can do.
Gosh, incredible. Oh, this has been,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Again, like we always kind of want to keep going because there's so much more. So we definitely will be inviting you back. Definitely going to be booking my next spa thing.
No, it's just
Yeah.
Clearly going,
Please do.
yeah, I booked before, didn't work. But we do love doing our little quick fire round. So
Yay.
fire away.
What is, in your opinion, your best business accomplishment?
Definitely now making sure that people with cancer are welcome into spa. Actually, cancer and disability, because that's equally as important, but they weren't 12, 14, 15 years ago, and they absolutely are now, and we champion it. So that's definitely my proudest moment.
Wonderful. Love that.
What is your favorite productivity hack?
Oh my goodness me. Blimey. Well, as a mum of 3 children, chairing the UK Spa Association and running spabreaks.com, I think it is being super efficient with your time and not being constrained to the hours that people think you should work. So actually be flexible with your hours, because if you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and work for 2 hours, it's actually the same as working 6 hours throughout the day. So don't be constrained to working the hours you think you should work, because sometimes it works better to work more effectively around that. 7 to 10 at night is my most effective time, because generally my kids, kids are all good. They're either in bed or they're it just don't think you need to sit into that box of 9 to 5.
Yeah. Love that.
And what is one thing the internet doesn't know about you yet?
Love this question.
Oh
See the
my
cogs
gosh.
turning.
Yeah. Well, as a single ladies, there is and a divorced mum of 3. There are some fun things going on in my life at the moment, but I'm also probably about to undergo a knee operation, because so in 2017 I had a spine fusion. So I look after the world and I look after my team and I look after everyone in the spa industry, but I don't look after myself very well. So
Bless you.
I collapsed on the tube in London and had 3 of my discs fused at the bottom of my back. So I haven't looked after myself, and as a result of that, I also had an accident 2 weeks ago that means I've probably torn the ACL in my knee and will need some knee surgery as well. So I'm not particularly healthy, if I'm really honest with you, and I'm not very good at practicing what I preach. So from a press's point of view, I probably, that's probably the thing. Or the website, they don't know that about me yet.
I can relate. I can totally relate.
Looking after us, we never practice what we preach. But no, I'm now going to be on your case now. I'm going to make sure you get some rest and go to a spa yourself. Okay.
That's an idea. Yeah, I must do that.
I wonder if there's a place you could look.
I know, that would tell you all the best places to go.
Well, I must have a bit of research, honestly.
Oh, well, Abbie, honestly, I mean, I am very sorry that you couldn't join us in person due to your poor knee injury, but I'm really glad you could join us. And it has been, honestly, again, just another fabulous episode, like just so much insight. And I know there's so much more, so we'd love to have you back. We can go into a little bit deeper of all the work that you're doing to help support, you know, the spa industry itself, people within it, and, you know, anyone that ever wants to actually experience it themselves and feel maybe they can't. So, you know, it's wonderful things that you're doing. So a real testament to you. Congratulations on your success. And we wish you even more. So yeah, on that note, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
I was going to say it's been an absolute pleasure as well. I've had such a great episode. We will be back next week with another dose of badass boss energy. But until then, like, follow, subscribe, do all the things that we love on social media to help push this episode out. And we will see you very, very soon.
See you then.